Hello world, it's me, Julian Venables, the London Astrologer, and today in this video I'm going to talk to you about the major planetary aspects that are coming up in the year 2021. Now Jupiter and Saturn have met in Aquarius, this great conjunction, this new 20-year cycle, which is very much to do on a personal level with your chart, to do with your career and your professional direction, to do with how you would integrate socially into the world. Aquarius is an air sign known for its ability to have individuation and to seek freedom. It also is the sign to do with invention and reform, but we'll look at that a little bit later. So now Jupiter and Saturn have occurred, they haven't yet been triggered by faster moving planets. So the first thing I want to tell you about today is this idea that the planets are kind of waiting to be woken up a bit more by faster moving, consciousness-based planets that really lift things up and lift us into that air element that we're all so anticipating. The first thing that will happen is around about January the 20th, the sun will go into Aquarius, and Mercury goes in first around about the 16th. And then there's a clustering of planets developing in Aquarius, the sun, Mercury, Venus, and followed ultimately by the moon on around about February the 9th. And it's around then that we have this incredible new moon, and there'll be 6 planets in Aquarius. This is really very, very rare. And it hasn't actually happened since February 1962, when there were 7 planets in Aquarius. But the thing about that heralded, of course, the 1960s, which was an incredible cultural revolution of a kind of its own. You know, it had a moving forwards and evolving like never before. So now it's coming around again. This six planet configuration that we're getting is better than the 1962 one and more evolving, because in 1962 Jupiter and Saturn had conjuncted first in Capricorn, which is the sign of governance and control and order and structure and hierarchy. This time Jupiter and Saturn have conjuncted in Aquarius, and this is the big difference. This is the huge potential movement of awakening that we are now reaching. And boy, is this exciting. So we have to think now carefully about what's going to happen here. You know, the 60s fizzled out because of that idea of order and control. But this time it's not going to fizzle out. There's a whole new social order coming, a whole new way of reckoning the order of the world and how things can be. This is really unprecedented. And to have it in our lifetimes, of course, is really quite exciting. So, you know, hold on to your hats and get ready. I offer readings, of course. You come and talk to me about this 6 planet pile up in your chart, and I'll give you lots of information to show you the direction you need to be going in. But I'd also like to talk to you now about the next major thing, of course, is the fact that we've got a Jupiter square Uranus coming up. Jupiter is in Aquarius. It's going to be applying a tension-based, stressful square to Uranus in Taurus. These are fixed signs. They like sustainability. They like steadfastness. They like immovability. They don't like necessarily to have change that much. Jupiter is the planet of abundance, growth, opportunity, excess, expansion. It's also the planet of philosophy and learning. It's the planet of traveling, interestingly enough. Uranus is the planet of awakening, of progressive things, of evolving, of doing things unexpected and exciting. But when Uranus is in Taurus, we're looking at things like nature. We're looking at things like pleasure or sensuality. We're looking at things like abundance, reliability, productiveness. But on the flip side of that, we're looking at a sense of how things can be. People can be possessive about something, or materialistic, or even rigid or unyielding. With Jupiter in Aquarius, we're looking at this idea of expansion into maybe, or loyalty to, a vision or a cause of something that can be a little bit aloof, a little bit rebellious. It can be a little bit innovating or embracing originality. So when Uranus squares, when Jupiter comes up to square Uranus, which is January the 17th at 6 degrees Aquarius, there's going to be an expansion in an unexpected and surprising way. Now, that could be something to do with, as I said, nature, and maybe, you know, it is a kind of possibly a sort of earthquakey signature. But I would also say keep an eye out for things like Bitcoin, cryptocurrency, because Uranus, Taurus has that kind of feeling about it. There may be a peak in something, because this is a square between these two outer planets, is only something that happens once in this year. So it's one Jupiter-Uranus square that we're going to get this year. Now, to find out more information on that one, then we need to look back to when Jupiter conjuncted Uranus, which was between June 2010 and January 2011. Then we had the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction at 0 degrees Aries, and then they both retrograded and they met in Pisces at the last couple of degrees of Pisces. So this was a very interesting conjunction because, of course, the conjunction Jupiter conjunct Uranus at 0 Aries, it was the Fukushima disaster. No one wants that again, of course. But there may be some news about that. So look out for that. The January 2011 conjunction in Pisces, I feel, was the time when, you know, Pisces is a sense of merging and unifying and losing. There is no form anymore. It's like a great soup or a great oneness or a great kind of affinity where everything's become boundaryless, if you like. And so when Jupiter-Uranus conjuncted in Pisces, I think that was, to a certain extent, the change in our consciousness that's to do with smartphones, to do with this idea of what the internet can hold for us, because Jupiter is the growing and expanding part. Uranus is the technology, and Pisces is that boundarylessness. And I think it may be something to do with how we sort of became one or merged into more of an internet savvy world, of an online kind of experience. It's also, I think, part of the trigger of when maybe people there was a sense of losing one's voice to the world. You know, like how can everybody be? We're all connected, you know, but it was a collective mind thing. Something about possibly losing a little bit of our general direction then, because why has the world become like it has? There is unification, but at the same time there's dissolution, and I think this is part of that. So now we get 9-10 years later, we get the closing square of what is essentially a 13-year cycle. And we're going to see like the results of that. I actually feel maybe there may be something very big happening to computers this year, and I'd be interested to see what that might be. I don't want to be pessimistic here or anything, but there could be possibly a sort of global hack or something like that. I'll be interested to see what happens. January 17th. Although Jupiter square Uranus, I think, could also do something to the stock market, so the economy might be quite affected. Jupiter square Uranus. Jupiter's bigger. It's like a hot air balloon, and it's in Aquarius. It's heating air up. Uranus in Taurus is like the stability of the ground, is shaking the ground, because Taurus is the earth, is solid, and it's a soft, fertile earth. You know, Taurus, because that's the time of year. It's a springtime sign. And Uranus shakes it, you know, makes it unreliable, makes it a bit weird or different in some way, surprising, unexpected movement of earthiness, solidities. Jupiter is expansive, hot, warm, moist air maybe going through Aquarius, lifting things up. So there's a solidity and then that lifting up quality. And so maybe there may be an event or even a series of events that indicate something that has expanded out of its control, out of its way of orderliness. If it's the economy, maybe there's an expansion, maybe, dare I say it, hyperinflation of some kind. Maybe more on this later on. I'll do another video on this one because I'm thinking a lot about it at the moment. And I think there's more to say on that. So let's move on to the next big aspect, which is January the 26th. Neptune squares the north and the south node. Neptune's in Pisces, this sign of sensitivity, emotional sensitivity, merging, unifying, being easily led, being very impressionable. This is the qualities of Pisces. They're very self-sacrificing. Or, you know, when I say they, I mean, I'm talking about anybody with planets in Pisces, or the experience of having, in the worldly picture of Neptune in Pisces is a sense of self-sacrificing, giving up something for a sense of dissolution. So if you have any planets in the mutable signs around about 19 degrees, then that Neptune square the nodes is going to be quite a big thing for you. So moving on, we then get to February the 17th, and it's the big one of the year. It's Saturn square Uranus, which is at 7 degrees of Aquarius. And Saturn square Uranus is the one we've kind of been waiting for. This is the destructuring of structure. It's definitely bringing in something new. It's the understanding that the old order doesn't work and something new has to be put into its place. Now, to understand this more, this is also the closing square between the two planets. We have to go back to the Saturn conjunction with Uranus to understand the theme of what's been playing out for the last 32, 33 years. And the Saturn conjuncted Uranus between February and October 1988. And that was in the last degrees of Sagittarius. It was between 27 and 29 Sagittarius. They met in both those places between February and October 1988. So the actual Saturn-Uranus conjunction has qualities of Sagittarius in it. Freedom, fun, having a good time, you know, exploring, philosophizing, seeing what the bigger picture is. One could say that really was the birth of the internet, because, you know, Saturn conjunct Uranus, Saturn made it real. Uranus was the concept or the invention. As Sagittarius would be something that would take the world. So, and it was a very revolutionary time, because if you remember, that was things like Tiananmen Square in China. It was things like the dissolution of the Berlin Wall, the collapse of the Iron Curtain. There was a lot of revolutionary fervour at that time that indicated how the world was going to be in the future. We've had to wait a long time for that future, and it's now here. And so Saturn goes into Aquarius, and we are now looking at this potential future. It's very exciting. So keep that in mind. Keep the idea of the big picture, the philosophy of things, expanding into something greater, the bigger meaning behind things. And if one really takes the qualities of Saturn, which is the traditional ruler in Aquarius, then one's looking at this idea of a social order. You know, maybe a humanitarian situation. It could be a humanitarian crisis of a kind. There may be something very urgent to attend to in the world. February the 17th, at 7 degrees Aquarius. But there also may be this sense of, okay, you know, how are we going to make these changes then? You know, that could be Saturn square Uranus, because Saturn is the order of the world, is government structure, rules, laws. and Uranus's change. The square is tension. So how do we make the changes we've got to make? Think about that. Could be a very interesting way of approaching this. That brings us then, you see, the Saturn square Uranus is going to be coming back over 3 times this year. So it's the 14th of June is the next one. And then December the 24th is the last one. So that takes the whole year. And it's destabilization. It's destructuring. But it's also the opportunity to bring something new in. And it's also the idea to bring in something maybe a bit more global because of that Sagittarius thing. So, the idea that it encompasses the world or encompasses all beliefs and faiths in something. So it's a very exciting time that we're at. And we have to think about where we can take the inspiration of this. Fixed signs are very solid and immovable and don't like change. So Saturn in Aquarius, Uranus in Taurus, there's a fixity about it. But I think there's a lot to do here with nature and the environment. What could we do to nature and the environment to help stop the current worldly situations that's causing all these lockdowns? Is there direct things that can be done that help stem that flow of what seems to be the forced reordering of things? So it's a very interesting time. There's another thing is to talk about here is the fact that Jupiter will be going through Aquarius reasonably quickly. It goes into Pisces on May the 13th, and that's where it rules Pisces. So that's a very nice phase. It goes into Pisces for the first couple of degrees of Pisces. By June the 20th, it retrogrades. It goes back into Aquarius at the end of July, beginning of August, and then it goes back into Aquarius in July, August, and then it goes back into Pisces in October. So there's the summer and early autumn this year is Jupiter going back and forth over the cusp into Pisces and back to Aquarius, and that can sort of blend together the learnings, the understandings of things, which should be, technically speaking, quite a nice phase because it's like intellectual ideas blended in with empathy and understanding and compassion. So there might be some quite nice things to come from that. We hope. So there we go. That is a very brief overview. My name is Julian Venables. I'm the London Astrologer. I've been doing astrology for 25 years. I hope I've given you some useful insights here. Do ask me for a reading because it's in your own life that really counts. And if you're to know yourself properly in this life, to really get to grips, which is one of the most important things about life, what else are we here to do apart from to know ourselves the best way possible?